Hey guys, tonight we begin with something much darker. A time of ravens, blood, and dying gods. We're diving into what life was really like during the height of the Viking Age. Forget the horned helmets and noble warriors Hollywood sold you. The truth is, if you were captured during a Viking raid, you probably wouldn't just die. You'd become art, carved from living flesh for the entertainment of Norse gods who demand beauty in suffering. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world, especially those whose ancestors might have witnessed these very rituals. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. This isn't your typical historical tour. Tonight, we're taking you on the most brutal experience in medieval Scandinavia. For the next 2 hours, we'll experience capture during a Viking raid, witness the Blood Eagle ceremony, and understand what it meant to live in a world where death was art, and your screams were prayers to gods who fed on human suffering. At the 10-minute mark, your screen will automatically turn black. This isn't just to save battery, but has deep scientific basis. Blue light from phone screens suppresses the production of melatonin, your body's natural sleep-regulating hormone. Research from Harvard University shows that exposure to blue light before sleep can disrupt your circadian rhythm and make falling into deep sleep much more difficult. The next 6 hours will be a continuous flow of white noise, specially designed for those with insomnia, for those restless minds that refuse to sleep. This audio is crafted for anxious thoughts, racing hearts, and minds that just won't quiet down. It's optimized at 40-60 Hz frequencies, a range that neuroscience research proves helps slow brain waves and promote deep sleep for even the most troubled sleepers. Tonight, we're following you, a Saxon monk captured during a Viking raid on Lindisfarne in 793 CE, when longships brought death from the sea and your monastery became a feast for ravens. We'll experience the terror of capture, the journey to a foreign land where your god has no power, and the slow realization that your death will be transformed into religious art for gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human destruction. This journey will take us through burning monasteries where books become kindling, slave markets where humans are currency, and sacred groves where trees are decorated with human entrails. We'll witness the elaborate preparations for the Blood Eagle, the ritual significance of transforming human backs into wings, and the religious meaning behind suffering that creates beauty for gods who judge artistic merit through screaming. You'll experience what it felt like to be chosen for the most honored death in Norse culture, to have your spine carved into eagle wings while you're still alive to appreciate the artistry, to become a living sacrifice whose suffering feeds the war god Odin and ensures Viking victory in future raids. We'll explore how an entire culture organized itself around death as art, how human sacrifice became performance that required skill, creativity, and religious devotion from executioners who were simultaneously artists, priests, and craftsmen working with human flesh as their medium. But this isn't just about death and torture. We'll delve into the psychology of living in a warrior culture where dying well was more important than living comfortably, where your death could bring honor to your family or shame, depending on how artistically you were killed, where gods judged humans by their willingness to suffer beautifully. This is dark tourism at its most extreme. We're not just visiting sites where people died. We're experiencing the ritualized transformation of human death into religious art that served cosmic purposes requiring human creativity, applied to human destruction in ways that pleased gods who appreciated both beauty and suffering. So prepare yourself for a journey that will take you from peaceful English monasteries to Norse ritual sites where human backs become wings, from Christian prayers to pagan ceremonies where your screams become sacred music for gods who demand both artistry and agony from human sacrifice. Welcome to the most artistically brutal civilization in European history. Tonight, We don't just explore Viking culture, we become Viking art, carved from living flesh for the entertainment of gods who judge human worth through human willingness to be transformed into beautiful death. Congratulations, you've just woken up on June 8th, 793 CE, on the holy island of Lindisfarne. The good news is you're alive and devoted to God in one of the most peaceful monasteries in England. The bad news is that dragon ships have appeared on the horizon, and the men rowing them don't come in peace. They come for gold, slaves, and the chance to turn your death into art that will please their gods. Your bed is a simple straw pallet in the monk's dormitory, covered with rough wool, blankets that keep you warm through English coastal nights. The monastery of Lindisfarne has been your home for 15 years, a place of prayer, learning, and quiet devotion, where the most exciting events are usually debates about Latin grammar or discussions of theological mysteries. You blink awake, not to the familiar sound of morning prayers, but to something that turns your blood to ice water, the war cries of Norsemen echoing across the tidal flats. These aren't the sounds of Christian civilization. These are the howls of wolves walking upright, of men who worship gods that demand blood and find beauty in human suffering. Through the narrow window of your cell, you can see them coming across the causeway, tall men with braided beards, iron, helmets glinting in the morning sun, shields painted with ravens and wolves and symbols that hurt to look at directly. They move with the confident stride of predators who have never known defeat, never doubted their gods, never questioned their right to take whatever they desire. The dragon ships beached on your shore are masterpieces of maritime engineering, designed for one purpose: bringing death to places that thought themselves safe. The carved dragon heads aren't just decoration. They're alive with malevolent spirits that guide Viking warriors to wealth, slaves, and opportunities for artistic killing that honors their gods through creative human suffering. The smell drifting through your window isn't the familiar scent of sea air and monastery gardens. It's smoke from burning buildings, the metallic tang of spilled blood, and something else. The sharp, clean smell of iron weapons that have been blessed by pagan priests and consecrated for sacred killing that transforms death into religious art. You try to pray, but the Latin words feel inadequate against the approaching chaos. Your god seems very far away as pagan war cries grow louder, and the sounds of systematic destruction echo through buildings that have known only peace for generations. These men don't just kill, they craft death into forms that please gods who appreciate human artistry applied to human destruction. The other monks are waking now, some crying, some praying, some simply staring in shock at the end of their peaceful world. Brother Benedict, who taught you to illuminate manuscripts, is clutching his writing materials like they might protect him from men who burn books for warmth and use human skin for parchment when they run out of vellum. Getting out of bed means accepting that your life as a peaceful monk has ended and something much worse has begun. Your rough wool habit marks you as a man of God to people whose gods demand that men of God die slowly and artistically to demonstrate divine power over Christian weakness. The monastery's treasures, golden crosses, jeweled chalices, illuminated, manuscripts that took decades to create, are exactly what brought these raiders across the North Sea. But they're not just here for gold, they're here for the intangible treasures. The opportunity to demonstrate their god's power over your god through artistic applications of human suffering. The sounds from outside are getting more systematic. Doors being kicked in with practiced efficiency. The crash of religious artifacts being destroyed or loaded onto ships. The distinctive sound of men who know exactly what they're looking for and exactly how to take it from people who have no idea how to resist. Your fellow monks are being rounded up like sheep, but sheep destined for something worse than slaughter. Vikings don't waste good slaves by killing them quickly. They evaluate captured humans for various purposes: labor, ransom, entertainment, and the most honored fate of all: transformation into living art that pleases gods who judge human worth, through human willingness to suffer beautifully. The monastery's isolation, which has protected you from worldly corruption, now makes you perfectly vulnerable to men who travel the seas, looking for isolated communities full of soft Christians who've forgotten that the world is violent and gods are hungry for human creativity, applied to human flesh. Through your window, you can see them working with professional efficiency. Some Vikings load treasure, some round up monks, some set fires with the careful attention of craftsmen who understand that destruction is an art form requiring skill, timing, and proper religious attitude toward the transformation of order into chaos. The abbot is being dragged across the courtyard, not to be killed quickly, but to be evaluated for his potential as either ransom material or artistic raw material for religious ceremonies that require human suffering to achieve proper aesthetic and spiritual effects. His fate depends on Viking economic calculations and religious requirements that your Christian education never prepared you to understand. Privacy and sanctuary, the fundamental concepts of monastic life, are meaningless to men whose gods live in the open sky and demand that human death happen in public, where divine audiences can appreciate the artistry involved in transforming living humans into beautiful corpses through skilled application of creative violence. Welcome to the end of your peaceful world and the beginning of your education in Norse culture, where death is performance art and your screams will become sacred music for gods who appreciate both human creativity and human suffering, applied to the ancient craft of turning living flesh into religious beauty. And this is just the beginning of your journey into a world where gods judge humans through human willingness to become art, where your death might be the masterpiece that ensures Viking success in future raids, and where Christian mercy is foreign concept to people whose mercy consists of killing you skillfully rather than clumsily. So, you've managed to witness the end of your peaceful monastic life, while pagan war cries announce the arrival of men who worship through warfare. Congratulations on surviving the first few minutes of contact with Vikings who view Christian monks as particularly valuable raw material for both economic and religious purposes that require your continued existence in forms you haven't previously considered. Here's where you discover that Viking capture isn't random violence. It's a sophisticated evaluation process where professional raiders assess human value according to complex criteria involving ransom potential, labor capacity, trading value, and most importantly, suitability for religious ceremonies that require specific types of human suffering to achieve proper cosmic effects. Your capture begins with practical Viking efficiency. Iron chains that have been forged specifically for human transport, tested on previous captives, and blessed by Norse priests who understand that proper slavery requires proper tools consecrated for sacred purposes that transform free humans into valuable property serving divine goals. The Vikings examining you aren't just checking for physical strength or obvious defects. They're evaluating your spiritual condition, your educational level, your potential resistance to various forms of persuasion, and your suitability for different types of death that serve different religious purposes, requiring different levels of human cooperation with divine artistic vision. Your ability to read and write Latin makes you particularly valuable, because literate slaves can serve administrative purposes in Viking society, while also being suitable for elaborate religious ceremonies that require educated victims who understand the theological significance of their artistic transformation from living humans into beautiful corpses. The chain around your neck isn't just restraint, it's consecrated metal that connects you spiritually to the god Odin, who collects warriors and wise men for his cosmic army that will fight during Ragnarok. Every link in your chain has been blessed by priests who understand that proper enslavement requires proper spiritual preparation for whatever fate awaits captured Christians. Your fellow monks are being sorted according to Viking classification systems that divide captured humans into categories: immediate sale for profit, long-term labor investment, ransom material, and religious raw material for ceremonies that require specific types of human suffering to achieve cosmic purposes that serve Norse gods through Christian pain. Brother Benedict, who taught you manuscript illumination, is being examined for his potential as a skald, a poet and storyteller who might be forced to compose verses celebrating Viking victories and Norse gods while serving as living proof that Christian learning serves pagan purposes when properly redirected through skilled application of persuasive techniques. The younger monks are being evaluated for their potential as long-term slaves who might be trained in Viking customs and eventually integrated into Norse society as valuable property that demonstrates Viking success in converting Christian resources into pagan wealth through systematic application of superior cultural techniques. The older monks, like Abbot Hygebold, are being assessed for their ransom value and their potential as sacrificial offerings, whose deaths might serve elaborate religious purposes, requiring aged wisdom and accumulated Christian spiritual energy to feed Norse gods who appreciate experienced human suffering over inexperienced human pain. Your tonsure, the circular shaved area on your head that marks you as a monk, makes you instantly identifiable as Christian clergy, which increases your value for both practical and religious purposes. Vikings appreciate the irony of forcing Christian holy men to serve pagan purposes, and their gods enjoy the cosmic joke of transforming Christian devotion into Norse religious material. The evaluation process includes physical examination for scars, diseases, and other conditions that might affect your value as labor, ransom, or religious offering. Vikings are practical people who understand that human resources require careful assessment to maximize return on investment in capture, transport, and maintenance of valuable human property. But there's a religious dimension to your capture that's more terrifying than simple slavery. The Vikings examining you are also priests, skalds, and craftsmen who understand death as art form, requiring skilled application of creative techniques to human flesh. They're evaluating your potential as artistic medium for religious ceremonies that transform human suffering into divine entertainment. Your education in Latin, your knowledge of Christian theology, and your obvious spiritual devotion make you particularly suitable for elaborate death rituals that require educated victims who can appreciate the theological irony of their situation while providing appropriate responses to various stages of artistic transformation, from living human to beautiful corpse. The most unsettling aspect of Viking capture is that your captors aren't angry, hateful, or emotional about your enslavement. They're professional, efficient, and religiously motivated people who view human capture as normal business activity that serves both practical and spiritual purposes, requiring systematic approach to human resource acquisition and management. The iron collar locked around your throat bears runic inscriptions that dedicate your enslavement to specific Norse gods who will determine your ultimate fate based on divine requirements for human resources in various cosmic projects requiring different types of human contribution through labor, suffering, or artistic death. Your chains connect you to other captured monks in a human cargo system designed for efficient transport of valuable human resources across long distances, while maintaining the spiritual and physical condition necessary for whatever ultimate purpose awaits captured Christians in Norse lands, where different gods make different demands on human flesh. The Viking ship that will carry you away from everything you've ever known is itself a religious artifact consecrated for sacred transportation of wealth, slaves, and opportunities for artistic killing that honors Norse gods through systematic demonstration of Viking superiority over Christian weakness, expressed through creative applications of superior pagan techniques. Your capture represents the beginning of your education in Norse culture, where human value is measured through human utility for various purposes, including labor, trade, entertainment, and religious art that requires human cooperation with divine vision expressed through skilled transformation of living flesh into forms that please gods who appreciate both beauty and suffering. So your march toward the dragon ships while learning that your Christian God has no authority in Norse cosmology, that your prayers are meaningless to gods who demand artistic death rather than peaceful salvation, and that your fate will be determined by pagan religious requirements that view Christian suffering as particularly valuable spiritual material. And you haven't even left your homeland yet, but already you're beginning to understand that Viking culture operates according to principles that make Christian mercy look like divine weakness rather than divine strength, and that Norse gods prefer human creativity applied to human destruction over Christian concepts of eternal life through spiritual salvation. You survived capture by professional human resource collectors who worship gods through warfare. Congratulations on being valuable enough to transport across the North Sea rather than being killed immediately for entertainment purposes. Now comes the voyage that will teach you everything you need to know about Viking maritime technology, Norse religious practices, and your new status as human cargo destined for purposes you haven't yet imagined. Your breakfast aboard the dragon ship consists of whatever scraps the Vikings don't want from their own meals, mixed with seawater to make it last longer, and seasoned with the salt from your own tears as you contemplate the theological implications of your situation. The Vikings eat first because they're free humans serving their gods through successful raiding. You eat last because you're property being transported for purposes that serve Norse religious requirements. The ship itself is a technological marvel designed specifically for carrying death to distant shores and returning with wealth, slaves, and opportunities for artistic killing. Every plank has been blessed by Norse priests, every nail consecrated for sacred transportation, every rope woven with prayers to sea gods who guide Viking vessels to profitable destinations, requiring creative applications of superior pagan techniques. Your position in the ship's cargo hold places you among other forms of valuable plunder. Golden crosses, illuminated manuscripts, sacred relics, and human beings all packed together as interchangeable commodities that serve Viking economic and religious interests through systematic transformation of Christian resources into Norse wealth and spiritual material. The Viking crew treats you with professional indifference that's somehow more terrifying than outright cruelty. You're not their enemy, you're their property, as valuable as the golden chalices and as disposable as the wooden crosses they use for kindling when fuel runs low during the long voyage across waters that belong to Norse sea gods. Navigation across the North Sea involves reading signs that Viking seafarers interpret through religious framework, combining practical seamanship with divine guidance from gods who control winds, currents, and weather patterns. Every successful voyage proves Norse spiritual superiority over Christian prayers that obviously failed to protect Christian monasteries from pagan raiders. The ship's dragon head isn't just artistic decoration, it's a living spiritual entity that guides the vessel toward wealth and away from danger, while serving as conduit for divine communication between Viking crews and Norse gods who provide navigation assistance in exchange for promises of future human sacrifice and creative applications of artistic death. Your fellow captives include other monks, but also secular Christians who were captured during the raid. Farmers, craftsmen, merchants, and their families who represent different categories of human resources suitable for different purposes in Norse society, ranging from agricultural labor to domestic service to religious entertainment, requiring various levels of human cooperation with divine artistic vision. The voyage itself becomes religious education as you observe Viking daily practices that combine practical seamanship with constant spiritual observance. Every meal includes offerings to sea gods. Every course change requires consultation with runic divination. Every day's journey proves the power of Norse gods over Christian prayers that failed to prevent your capture. Viking shipboard discipline maintains order through combination of practical necessity and religious authority. The ship's captain isn't just a seafarer, he's a priest who speaks for the gods during the voyage and whose commands carry divine authority that makes disobedience a spiritual offense as well as a practical threat to everyone's survival. The stories told during evening hours aren't just entertainment, they're religious instruction that teaches captured Christians about Norse cosmology, divine requirements, and cultural expectations that will determine your treatment in Viking society. Every saga demonstrates Norse values, including the proper appreciation of death as art form, requiring human cooperation with divine aesthetic vision. Your Christian prayers become source of Viking amusement because Norse gods obviously have power over Christian God, as demonstrated by the success of the raid and the failure of Christian prayers to prevent capture, transport, and whatever fate awaits you in lands where different gods make different demands on human flesh. The weather during the voyage serves as continuous demonstration of Norse spiritual superiority. Fair winds prove that sea gods approve of the raid and the cargo being transported for purposes that serve divine interests. Storms prove that gods are testing Viking worthiness, while ignoring Christian prayers for deliverance from pagan captivity. Sleep. Aboard the dragon ship involves dreams haunted by the growing realization that your fate will be determined by religious requirements of gods who view human death as art form, requiring skilled application of creative techniques to living flesh. Your education in Norse culture has begun, and the curriculum includes subjects that Christian monasteries never taught. The Vikings discuss your potential value in conversations conducted in Old Norse that you're beginning to understand through linguistic immersion. Some words are recognizable cognates, others require interpretation through context, but the general meaning becomes clear. You're being evaluated for purposes that include labor, trade, entertainment, and religious art. Your fellow monks are adapting to captivity in different ways. Some pray constantly in Latin that Vikings find amusing. Some attempt to learn Norse words and customs that might improve their treatment. Some retreat into spiritual contemplation that prepares them for whatever death might be required by pagan religious practices that view Christian suffering as particularly valuable spiritual material. The ship's cargo also includes weapons, tools, and ceremonial objects that provide insights into Viking culture and religious practices. Sacred hammers dedicated to Thor, runic stones blessed for divination, and various implements designed for specific types of artistic death that require proper tools consecrated for religious purposes that transform killing into spiritual service. Your voyage across the north. Sea represents transformation from free Christian monk to valuable Norse property, whose ultimate fate will be determined by religious requirements that view human death as cosmic necessity, requiring artistic application of creative techniques to achieve proper spiritual and aesthetic effects that honor gods through beautiful suffering. So you sail toward an unknown land where unknown gods make unknown demands on human flesh, while learning that Viking culture operates according to principles that make Christian concepts of peaceful death look like spiritual weakness rather than divine mercy, and where your screams might become sacred music for gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human destruction. And the voyage is just preparation for your real education in Norse culture, where death is performance art and your suffering will serve cosmic purposes that require human cooperation with divine vision expressed through systematic transformation of Christian flesh into pagan religious beauty that honors gods who judge human worth through human willingness to become art. So, you've survived the voyage across the North Sea while learning that Viking culture views human transport as sacred activity serving religious purposes. Congratulations on reaching Norse lands where different gods make different demands on human flesh. Now comes your introduction to Viking fashion, which serves the triple purpose of protecting your body, identifying your social status, and preparing you for whatever type of artistic death might be required to honor gods who appreciate both beauty and suffering. Your clothing as a captured Christian monk has been replaced with garments that serve Norse purposes rather than Christian modesty. The rough wool habit that marked you as a man of God has been exchanged for Norse slave clothing that identifies you as human property while maintaining your value for whatever religious or economic purposes await captured Christians in pagan lands. Your new garments include a simple wool tunic dyed with colors that indicate your status as valuable property rather than common slave. The dyes aren't just aesthetic choices, they're spiritual markers that tell Norse gods and Norse humans exactly what type of captured Christian you are and what purposes you might serve in religious ceremonies requiring specific types of human suffering to achieve cosmic effects. The iron collar around your neck has been replaced with a more elaborate version bearing runic inscriptions that dedicate your enslavement to specific Norse gods who will determine your ultimate fate. The runes aren't just identification, they're prayers carved in metal that invoke divine protection for valuable human property, while requesting divine guidance about optimal utilization of captured Christian resources. Viking clothing technology is sophisticated, practical, and deeply connected to religious beliefs about proper spiritual preparation for various activities, including warfare, farming, craftsmanship, and artistic killing that honors gods through skilled application of creative techniques to human flesh. Every garment serves both practical and spiritual purposes that demonstrate Norse understanding of divine requirements. Your wool leggings are bound with leather strips that provide both physical support and spiritual protection through runic symbols worked into the leather by craftsmen who understand that proper clothing requires proper consecration for whatever purposes await human wearers in activities ranging from daily labor to religious ceremonies requiring human cooperation. With divine artistic vision, the cloak draped over your shoulders isn't just weather protection. It's ceremonial garment that prepares you for potential religious participation in Norse cultural activities that might include anything from seasonal festivals to elaborate death rituals requiring properly dressed participants who understand their roles in cosmic dramas that serve divine entertainment through human performance. Your footwear consists of leather boots designed for walking on different terrain than the stone floors of English monasteries. The leather has been treated with substances that provide both practical durability and spiritual protection through applications of sacred materials that connect human feet to earth gods who control the ground that supports all human activities, including artistic death. The most unsettling aspect of Viking clothing is that fashion and death preparation are inseparable concepts. The better you're dressed, the more valuable you become for elaborate religious ceremonies that require properly prepared human participants, who can appreciate the honor of serving cosmic purposes through artistic transformation from living human to beautiful corpse. Jewelry and ornaments include items made from silver, bronze, amber, and other materials that serve both decorative and spiritual purposes. Each piece connects you to specific Norse gods and specific types of religious ceremony that might require your participation through various forms of contribution, ranging from witness to sacrifice, depending on divine requirements and human availability. Your hair has been cleaned, combed, and styled according to Norse customs that prepare captured humans for potential religious service. Different hairstyles indicate different types of spiritual preparation for different types of cosmic participation that might be required by gods who judge human readiness through human appearance and human willingness to serve divine purposes through beautiful death. Body decorations include temporary markings applied with sacred substances that indicate your spiritual condition and your readiness for various types of religious participation. The markings aren't just cosmetic, they're prayers written on human skin that invoke divine attention while indicating human availability for whatever cosmic purposes might require human cooperation with divine artistic vision. The clothing worn by your Viking captors provides insight into Norse social organization and religious hierarchy. Different garments indicate different social positions and different relationships with gods who require different types of human service, ranging from daily labor to occasional artistic death, depending on cosmic requirements and divine appetite for human creativity applied to human suffering. Ceremonial clothing stored in Norse households includes garments designed specifically for religious occasions that require human participants who understand their roles in cosmic dramas, serving divine entertainment. Some ceremonies require living participants, others require dying participants, and proper clothing helps determine which type of participation serves current cosmic requirements most effectively. Your education in Norse fashion includes understanding that clothing choices affect your likelihood of being selected for various types of religious service. Certain colors attract attention from certain gods. Certain materials indicate readiness for certain types of cosmic participation, and certain styles suggest human willingness to serve divine purposes through whatever forms of contribution might be required. The textile production that creates Norse clothing involves religious practices at every stage. Sheep are blessed before shearing, wool is consecrated during spinning, fabric is blessed during weaving, and finished garments are dedicated to specific gods who will determine appropriate utilization of human wearers for various cosmic purposes requiring human cooperation with divine plans. Women's clothing in Norse society includes specific garments designed for female participation in religious ceremonies that require gender-specific types of human contribution to cosmic purposes. Female slaves are dressed according to different standards that reflect different types of spiritual preparation for different types of divine service that utilize feminine spiritual energy for cosmic maintenance. The most disturbing realization about Viking clothing is that every garment prepares you for potential death, while maintaining your value for potential life. The same clothes that protect you from weather also prepare you for sacrifice, and the better you look, the more attractive you become to gods who prefer their human offerings to demonstrate aesthetic excellence when transformed into religious art. So you wear Norse clothing while learning that Viking fashion serves religious purposes that include both protecting valuable human property and preparing that property for eventual artistic utilization in ceremonies that honor gods through skilled transformation of living humans into beautiful corpses that demonstrate divine power over Christian weakness through creative applications of superior pagan techniques. And now that you're properly dressed for whatever fate awaits captured Christians in Norse lands, it's time to begin your work in a society where every job ultimately serves the purpose of honoring gods who might require your death as payment for divine services that maintain cosmic balance through regular applications of human creativity to human flesh. Now that you're properly dressed in Norse clothing that identifies you as valuable human property while preparing you for potential religious utilization, it's time to begin your work in Viking society, where every job ultimately serves gods who might require your labor, your skills, your knowledge, or your artistic death, depending on current cosmic requirements and divine appetite for human creativity applied to various purposes. Your work assignment depends on Viking evaluation of your skills, your education, your physical condition, and your potential value for various purposes ranging from practical labor to religious entertainment. As a literate Christian monk, you possess knowledge that Vikings find useful for administrative purposes, while also being suitable for elaborate religious ceremonies, requiring educated victims who understand theological implications of their situation. If you're assigned to manuscript copying, you'll be reproducing Norse sagas, legal codes, and religious texts that celebrate Viking values, including proper appreciation of death as art form. Your Latin education makes you valuable for translating Christian texts into Norse contexts that demonstrate pagan superiority over Christian weakness through systematic appropriation of Christian intellectual resources for Norse spiritual purposes. Your penmanship skills, developed through years of illuminating Christian manuscripts, now serve Norse purposes that include recording runic inscriptions, copying skaldic poetry, and maintaining administrative records for a society that operates according to religious principles, requiring detailed documentation of human resources available for various cosmic purposes, including artistic death. If you're assigned to agricultural work, you'll be tending crops and livestock that provide food for Viking society, while also serving religious purposes. Every harvest includes offerings to agricultural gods. Every slaughter serves both nutritional and spiritual needs. And farming itself is religious activity that maintains cosmic balance through human cooperation with divine forces controlling natural cycles. The crops you tend include barley, oats, and various vegetables that serve both practical nutrition and religious symbolism. Grain represents life and death cycles that mirror human existence, and successful harvests prove divine approval of current human offerings, including the artistic deaths that honor gods through skilled transformation of living humans into beautiful corpses serving cosmic entertainment. Livestock care involves managing animals that serve both economic and religious purposes. Cattle provide meat, milk, and leather, while also serving as sacrificial offerings to gods who require animal death to maintain cosmic balance. Sheep provide wool and meat while serving as substitutes for human sacrifice when human offerings aren't immediately available for divine consumption. If you're assigned to craft work, you'll be creating goods that serve both practical and spiritual purposes. Every item produced in Viking society has religious significance because material culture reflects divine relationships and cosmic principles that require human cooperation with divine plans through skilled application of human creativity to various forms of material transformation. Metalworking involves creating weapons, tools, and ceremonial objects that serve gods as well as humans. Iron forging requires religious observance because metal transformation mirrors spiritual transformation, and weapons created through proper spiritual techniques carry divine blessing that ensures effectiveness in both practical combat and religious. Ceremonies requiring proper tools for artistic death. Woodworking includes creating everything from ships to household items to religious artifacts that serve cosmic purposes. Tree cutting requires permission from forest gods. Wood shaping involves spiritual techniques that honor divine forces controlling natural materials. And finished products carry spiritual energy that affects their utilization for various purposes, including artistic killing. Your education in Christian theology makes you particularly valuable for religious work that involves translating Christian concepts into Norse contexts that demonstrate pagan superiority over Christian spiritual techniques. Viking priests find Christian theological knowledge useful for developing more effective arguments against Christian beliefs, while appropriating useful Christian intellectual resources for Norse spiritual purposes. Legal work involves copying and interpreting Norse law codes that govern human behavior according to religious principles. Viking legal system operates according to divine requirements that include proper procedures for human sacrifice, appropriate compensation for various crimes, and correct protocols for artistic death that honors gods through skilled application of creative violence to human flesh. The most unsettling aspect of work in Viking society is that productivity and religious sacrifice are directly connected. The more successful your work, the more valuable you become as human property that might be required for elaborate religious ceremonies. Success increases your likelihood of being selected for artistic death that honors gods through demonstration of human excellence transformed into divine entertainment. Your work schedule is determined by religious calendar calculations that ensure labor serves cosmic purposes rather than simply human needs. You work when gods permit work, you rest when gods require spiritual observance, and you participate in religious ceremonies when gods demand human contribution to cosmic maintenance through various forms of service, including potential artistic death. The tools you use for work have been blessed by priests and consecrated for specific purposes that serve both practical and spiritual goals. Every implement carries divine energy that affects work quality and spiritual significance of labor, performed with proper religious attitude toward material transformation that honors gods through human skill, applied to various forms of creative activity. Trade work involves exchanging goods with other Viking communities and foreign societies, according to religious principles that govern proper relationships between human communities serving different gods. Every transaction includes spiritual elements that ensure divine approval of economic activity, while maintaining cosmic balance through proper distribution of material and human resources. Seasonal work follows religious calendar that determines appropriate activities for different times of year based on divine requirements and cosmic cycles. Spring planting serves agricultural gods, summer raiding honors war gods, autumn harvest celebrates abundance gods, and winter storytelling maintains spiritual knowledge while preparing for religious ceremonies that might require human sacrifice to ensure cosmic continuity. The most disturbing realization about Viking work is that every job prepares you for potential religious utilization while maintaining your practical value for continued labor. The better you work, the more valuable you become, both as property and as potential offering to gods who judge human worth through human skill, demonstrated in both productive labor and artistic death. So you perform daily labor while knowing that every task serves ultimate purpose of honoring gods who might require your death as payment for divine services, and that your work performance affects your likelihood of being selected for elaborate religious ceremonies that transform human skill into divine entertainment through creative applications of artistic violence to skilled human flesh. And now that you've learned to work for gods who judge human value through human productivity and human willingness to serve cosmic purposes, it's time to consider the weather in Norse lands, where even climate serves religious purposes that require human cooperation with divine forces controlling natural phenomena through regular applications of human sacrifice and artistic death. Now that you've learned to work for gods who judge human value through human productivity and potential for artistic death, let's discuss the weather in Norse lands. Because in Viking culture, climate isn't just natural phenomenon. It's direct manifestation of divine will controlled by gods, who must be honored through proper religious observance, including human sacrifice to ensure favorable conditions for human survival and Viking success in warfare. The weather in Scandinavia during your captivity is harsh, unpredictable, and spiritually significant according to Norse beliefs about divine control over natural forces. Every storm demonstrates the power of thunder god Thor. Every calm day proves the approval of weather gods, who might require human offerings to maintain their cooperation with human activities including farming, sailing, and artistic killing. Let's start with winter, which in Norse lands isn't just cold season. It's spiritual testing period, when gods determine human worthiness for survival through divine judgment expressed as meteorological conditions that require proper human response, including increased religious observance and potential human sacrifice to maintain cosmic warmth through divine favor. The cold is brutal, penetrating, and potentially fatal for humans who lack proper spiritual preparation for surviving divine tests administered through weather conditions that separate strong souls from weak souls according to religious principles governing cosmic justice and divine judgment of human character demonstrated through response to meteorological adversity. Your clothing provides some protection against cold, but warmth ultimately depends on divine favor, earned through proper religious observance and maintained through correct spiritual relationship with weather gods who control temperature according to their satisfaction with human offerings, including the artistic deaths that honor divine power through creative applications of human suffering. Snow in Norse cosmology isn't just frozen precipitation. It's manifestation of divine purity that cleanses the world while testing human endurance and spiritual strength. Heavy snowfall might indicate divine approval of recent religious activities, or divine displeasure, requiring additional human sacrifice to restore proper relationship between human community and weather gods. The wind carries spiritual significance beyond its physical effects. Gentle breezes indicate divine approval and cosmic harmony, while violent storms suggest divine anger that requires human response through increased religious observance and potential sacrifice of human life to restore proper balance between mortal activities and immortal requirements for cosmic maintenance. Spring weather represents renewal of divine favor after winter testing, but favorable spring conditions must be earned through proper religious observance during winter months, including ceremonies that might require human sacrifice to ensure divine cooperation with human agricultural activities and military campaigns, requiring favorable weather for success. Summer brings opportunities for Viking raiding expeditions that depend on favorable weather for naval operations, but divine cooperation with human warfare requires proper spiritual preparation, including religious ceremonies that honor war gods through various types of human offering, ranging from captured enemies to volunteer sacrifices from Viking communities. Autumn. Weather affects harvest success and winter survival prospects, but agricultural outcomes depend on divine satisfaction with human religious observance throughout the growing season, including proper offerings to agricultural gods who might require human sacrifice to ensure adequate food storage for community survival during harsh winter months. The most unsettling aspect of Norse weather is that meteorological conditions serve as divine communication system where gods express their satisfaction or displeasure with human religious performance. Every weather pattern carries spiritual messages that Viking priests interpret to determine what additional human sacrifices might be required to maintain divine favor and prevent cosmic disasters. Rain patterns indicate the mood of various sky gods, who control moisture according to their satisfaction with human offerings. Light rain suggests divine approval of recent religious activities, while heavy storms might indicate divine hunger, requiring additional human sacrifice to restore proper cosmic balance and prevent worse meteorological disasters. Lightning strikes are direct manifestations of Thor's power and divine attention to human activities. When lightning kills humans or destroys property, it's interpreted as divine selection of specific targets for purposes that serve cosmic justice. When lightning spares human communities, it demonstrates divine protection, earned through proper religious observance and adequate human sacrifice. Temperature fluctuations reflect ongoing negotiations between different gods who control various aspects of weather according to their individual appetites for human offerings. Sudden cold snaps might indicate that frost giants are gaining power and require human sacrifice to prevent their complete triumph over forces that maintain conditions suitable for human survival. The aurora borealis, the northern lights, represents the souls of dead warriors dancing in the sky after being selected by Odin for service in his cosmic army. The brightness and frequency of aurora displays indicate divine satisfaction with recent warrior deaths and suggest whether additional human sacrifice might be required to maintain adequate spiritual reserves for cosmic warfare. Fog and mist create spiritual conditions that allow easier communication between human and divine realms, while also providing cover for supernatural beings who might require human interaction, including potential selection of humans for various types of divine service, ranging from spiritual consultation to artistic death depending on cosmic requirements. Seasonal changes follow religious calendar that determines appropriate human activities for different weather conditions based on divine requirements and cosmic cycles. Each season requires specific types of religious observance, including ceremonies, that might involve human sacrifice to ensure divine cooperation with human survival needs and Viking military activities. The most disturbing realization about Norse weather is that favorable conditions increase the likelihood of human sacrifice, because good weather indicates divine satisfaction that might be maintained through additional offerings of human life. Beautiful days are simultaneously gifts and demands for payment that might be collected through artistic death. Weather prediction in Viking society involves religious consultation with gods who control meteorological conditions according to their satisfaction with human religious performance. Priests study weather patterns, astronomical phenomena, and sacrificial effectiveness to determine what additional human offerings might be required to ensure continued divine cooperation. Your daily weather experience as a captured Christian monk involves constant awareness that meteorological conditions reflect divine judgment of your spiritual status and potential value for religious purposes. Good weather might indicate divine approval of your enslavement, while bad weather might suggest that gods require your death to restore cosmic balance. Extreme weather events, blizzards, floods, droughts, storms, are interpreted as divine tests that require human response through increased religious observance and potential human sacrifice to demonstrate community commitment to proper spiritual relationship with cosmic forces controlling natural phenomena that affect human survival and Viking success. The weather gods who control Norse climate are not benevolent nature spirits. They're cosmic forces with specific appetites for human offerings that must be satisfied through regular sacrifice to maintain meteorological conditions suitable for human civilization and Viking military activities requiring divine cooperation with human warfare. Clothing choices must account for both practical weather protection and religious significance of different meteorological conditions. Wearing inappropriate garments during spiritually significant weather events might indicate insufficient respect for divine power and result in selection for sacrifice to demonstrate proper religious attitude toward cosmic forces. Agricultural work depends entirely on weather conditions controlled by gods who require proper human response to meteorological conditions through religious observance that might include human sacrifice to ensure divine cooperation with farming. Activities essential for community survival during harsh Norse winters. Your survival through Norse weather depends on divine favor that must be earned through proper religious observance and maintained through correct spiritual relationship with weather gods who judge human worthiness through human response to meteorological testing administered through climate conditions that separate faithful servants from inadequate humans. So, you experience Norse weather while knowing that every pleasant day increases divine expectations for human gratitude that might be expressed through sacrifice. Every harsh day requires human endurance that demonstrates spiritual strength, and every meteorological condition serves cosmic purposes that might require your death to maintain proper relationship between mortal needs and immortal requirements. And now that you've learned to interpret weather as divine communication, requiring human response through religious observance, that might include your artistic death. It's time to consider water in Norse lands, where every drop carries spiritual significance and connects you to gods who control both hydration and the possibility that your death by drowning might serve cosmic purposes requiring human cooperation with divine artistic vision. Feeling thirsty after experiencing Norse weather that serves as divine communication requiring human response through religious sacrifice. Need to cleanse yourself in preparation for potential selection as a sacrificial offering. Want to splash sacred water on your face to wake up from this nightmare of living in a culture where drowning is religious art. In Viking civilization, water isn't just a resource. It's liquid divinity that connects you directly to gods who control every drop and might demand your death by drowning as payment for continued access to sacred hydration. Let's start with drinking water, which comes from springs, wells, and streams that are controlled by water spirits who must be honored with regular offerings to maintain their cooperation with human hydration needs. Every sip connects you to divine forces who judge human worthiness through human willingness to serve cosmic purposes that might include death by drowning in religious ceremonies. The wells that provide water for Viking communities aren't just practical infrastructure. They're sacred sites where water gods dwell and observe human behavior while judging human suitability for various types of divine service. Drawing water requires proper spiritual attitude and correct religious observance to avoid offending deities who might withdraw their liquid gifts or demand human payment for continued access. Water quality depends on divine satisfaction with human religious performance. Clean, sweet water indicates that water gods approve of recent sacrificial offerings and community spiritual condition. Bitter or contaminated water suggests divine displeasure that requires additional human sacrifice to restore proper relationship between mortal needs and immortal control over liquid resources. Your daily water ration as a captured Christian slave depends entirely on Viking religious calculations about your value as human property and your potential utility for various purposes, including possible drowning in religious ceremonies that honor water gods through artistic transformation of human death into spiritual entertainment that serves cosmic purposes. But here's the terrifying religious significance of water in Norse culture. Drowning isn't just accidental death. It's sacred art form that requires skill, timing, and proper spiritual preparation to transform human death into divine offering that pleases water gods while demonstrating human devotion to cosmic purposes, requiring creative applications of artistic killing. Ritual drowning serves multiple spiritual purposes, including honoring water gods, demonstrating community commitment to proper religious observance, and providing divine entertainment through artistic death that transforms human suffering into cosmic beauty appreciated by gods who judge human worth through human willingness to die creatively for divine purposes. The sacred pools used for drowning ceremonies aren't just bodies of water, they're divine theaters where water gods gather to observe human performance art, involving the transformation of living humans into beautiful corpses through skilled application of drowning techniques that honor divine artistic standards while serving cosmic entertainment requirements. Bog sacrifices represent the most elaborate form of ritual drowning, where human victims are prepared through complex ceremonies before being deposited in sacred wetlands that preserve their bodies for centuries as permanent offerings to water. Gods who appreciate both immediate spiritual satisfaction and long-term artistic preservation of human sacrifice. The victims selected for drowning ceremonies undergo extensive spiritual preparation that includes ritual cleansing, religious instruction about their cosmic significance, and physical preparation designed to ensure their deaths serve proper, artistic, and spiritual purposes while providing appropriate entertainment for divine audiences who judge sacrificial quality through aesthetic criteria. Your education in Christian theology makes you particularly valuable for drowning ceremonies that require victims who understand the theological irony of their situation, while providing informed commentary on the superior power of Norse water. Gods over Christian concepts of baptism and spiritual cleansing through liquid religious experience. Women's drowning ceremonies serve different spiritual purposes than men's drowning rituals, because water goddesses have specific appetites for feminine spiritual energy and require gender-specific types of artistic death to maintain cosmic balance. through systematic applications of creative drowning techniques that honor divine feminine power over mortal feminine flesh. Children's drowning sacrifices are particularly valued by water gods who appreciate innocent spiritual energy and untainted human life force that can be transformed into cosmic power through artistic applications of drowning techniques that preserve childhood purity while serving divine purposes, requiring specifically young spiritual material for cosmic maintenance. The most unsettling aspect of Norse drowning rituals is that victims are expected to cooperate with their artistic death through proper spiritual attitude and appropriate responses to various stages of drowning that demonstrate human understanding of cosmic significance while providing entertaining performance for divine audiences who appreciate skillful dying. Seasonal drowning ceremonies coincide with critical water-related activities, including spring planting that requires water god cooperation, summer navigation that depends on divine control over weather patterns, and autumn preparation for winter, survival that might require human sacrifice to ensure adequate divine protection during harsh months. The tools used for drowning ceremonies include weighted ropes, sacred stones, and ceremonial platforms designed specifically for artistic death that honors water gods through proper application of drowning techniques that transform human death into religious performance, serving cosmic entertainment while demonstrating community commitment to divine service. Priests who conduct drowning ceremonies are trained in both practical drowning methods and spiritual protocols that ensure proper religious significance while maximizing artistic value of human death through skilled application of techniques that honor water gods through creative transformation of living humans into beautiful floating corpses. The most disturbing realization about water in Norse culture is that every drop you drink creates spiritual debt to gods who might collect payment through your artistic death by drowning. Hydration increases your obligation to divine forces who might demand your life as compensation for liquid sustenance that maintains your value as potential religious offering. Bathing in Norse culture involves spiritual purification that prepares you for potential religious service, while cleaning your body of contamination that might make you unsuitable for drowning ceremonies, requiring spiritually pure victims who can serve divine purposes through artistic death that honors water gods through creative applications of human cooperation with cosmic artistic vision. Your relationship with water as a captured Christian slave involves constant awareness that every liquid interaction might be preparation for drowning ceremony that serves religious purposes, requiring your cooperation with artistic death that demonstrates divine power over Christian concepts of salvation through spiritual relationship with different types of divine liquid experience. Sacred springs throughout Norse lands serve as sites for water worship that includes regular drowning sacrifices designed to honor local water spirits while maintaining divine cooperation with human activities requiring liquid resources for survival, agriculture, and religious ceremonies that transform human death into cosmic entertainment through artistic applications of creative drowning. So you drink Norse water while knowing that every sip increases your debt to gods who control liquid resources and might demand payment through artistic drowning that serves cosmic purposes, and that your spiritual purification through water contact prepares you for potential religious utilization, involving creative transformation of your death into divine entertainment through skilled application of drowning artistry. And now that you're properly hydrated with sacred liquid that connects you to gods who control both life and artistic death through water, it's time to consider Norse medicine in a culture where healing and killing are aspects of the same divine power that judges human worth through human utility for various cosmic purposes, including potential medical experimentation during elaborate torture sessions. So you've consumed sacred water that connects you to gods who control both hydration and artistic death through drowning. Or maybe you've developed some illness from the harsh Norse climate and inadequate slave nutrition. Either way, you need medical attention in a culture where healing and torture are aspects of the same divine knowledge, and where Norse physicians understand human anatomy through extensive experience with both preserving life and artistically destroying it. Let's start with Norse medical theory, which combines practical knowledge gained through battlefield surgery with spiritual understanding derived from systematic torture and human sacrifice that provides detailed anatomical information about pain responses, organ function, and the precise mechanics of human death administered through various creative techniques, serving both medical education and religious entertainment. Norse physicians are simultaneously healers, torturers, and priests who understand that human flesh serves multiple purposes, including practical utility for labor, spiritual utility for sacrifice, and educational utility for advancing medical knowledge through systematic applications of pain that reveal information about human physiological systems unavailable through less invasive research methods. Your medical examination as a captured Christian slave involves assessment of your physical condition, your pain tolerance, your potential longevity under various forms of stress, and your suitability for different types of medical experimentation that might serve both healing purposes for valuable Norse patients and torture purposes for religious ceremonies requiring human suffering. Norse pharmacology includes extensive knowledge of plants that both heal and harm, depending on dosage, preparation method, and spiritual context. The same herbs that relieve pain can also enhance pain when properly prepared according to religious requirements for torture sessions that serve both medical education and divine entertainment through systematic applications of creative suffering. Surgical procedures in Norse medicine involve techniques learned through battlefield treatment of wounded warriors and refined through torture sessions that provide opportunities for exploring human anatomy while the patient remains conscious, to describe physiological responses that advance medical knowledge while serving religious purposes requiring human cooperation with experimental procedures. The most effective Norse medical treatments require spiritual consultation with gods who control health, disease, and human longevity, according to cosmic purposes that might include preserving valuable humans for continued service or destroying inconvenient humans through medical procedures that serve both healing and killing, depending on divine requirements and human utility. Pain management in Norse culture includes both relief and enhancement, depending on spiritual context and divine requirements. Healing ceremonies require pain reduction to preserve valuable human resources, while torture ceremonies require pain amplification to honor gods who appreciate human suffering as entertainment and educational material for advancing divine knowledge about human physiological limitations. Mental illness in Norse society is interpreted as spiritual possession by gods or other supernatural beings who have entered human consciousness for purposes that might include divine communication, cosmic testing, or preparation for sacrifice. Treatment involves either exorcism to preserve human utility or enhancement to prepare for religious death that serves divine purposes. The most unsettling aspect of Norse medicine is that healing knowledge is derived from torture experience, and medical skill is demonstrated through ability to control both preservation and destruction of human life, according to religious requirements that determine whether human flesh serves cosmic purposes better through continued living or artistic dying. Your treatment as a captured Christian slave depends on Norse evaluation of your medical condition, your economic value, your potential longevity, and your suitability for various forms of medical experimentation that might advance Norse healing knowledge while serving religious purposes, requiring human suffering to honor gods who appreciate both medical progress and spiritual entertainment. Surgical tools used in Norse medicine include instruments designed for both healing and torture, often the same implements serving both purposes depending on spiritual context and divine requirements. Knives that remove diseased tissue can also remove healthy tissue for religious ceremonies, and the skill required for both procedures demonstrates medical competence. Anatomical knowledge in Norse culture comes from systematic dissection of sacrificial victims, who provide educational opportunities for advancing medical understanding, while serving religious purposes that require human death to honor gods through creative applications of medical skill to artistic destruction of human bodies, serving cosmic entertainment requirements. Disease treatment involves both practical medical intervention and spiritual negotiation with gods who control illness according to cosmic purposes that might include testing human endurance, punishing human moral failures, or preparing humans for sacrifice through systematic weakening that makes artistic death more spiritually significant and aesthetically pleasing. Obstetrics and childbirth in Norse society involve medical knowledge gained through observation of both successful births and deliberate killing of pregnant women during torture sessions that provide information about reproductive anatomy, while serving religious purposes requiring specific types of feminine suffering to honor goddesses who control fertility through divine management of female pain. The most disturbing realization about Norse medicine is that every medical treatment creates spiritual debt to gods who control healing and might demand payment through your participation in medical experimentation that serves both advancing Norse healing knowledge and providing religious entertainment through systematic exploration of human physiological responses to creative applications of controlled suffering. Medical education in Viking culture involves training in both preservation and destruction of human life, because medical competence requires understanding all aspects of human anatomy and physiology, including optimal methods for causing pain, preventing death, accelerating death, and transforming death into artistically satisfying religious ceremonies that honor gods through medical skill. Herbal medicine includes detailed knowledge of plants that produce various types of controlled suffering for both medical and religious purposes. The same botanical knowledge that preserves life can also enhance torture sessions through applications of chemical pain enhancement that serves medical education while honoring gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human suffering. Prosthetics and wound care in Norse society demonstrate medical skill while also serving as preparation for torture sessions that require victims to survive extensive injury for religious purposes. The ability to keep humans alive during systematic destruction proves medical competence while serving divine entertainment through prolonged artistic suffering. Your survival under Norse medical care depends on divine judgment of your value for various purposes, including continued slave labor, religious sacrifice, medical experimentation, and torture demonstration that serves both advancing medical knowledge and providing spiritual entertainment for gods who appreciate human suffering administered through skilled medical applications of creative pain. Quarantine procedures for epidemic disease involve both medical isolation to prevent spread and religious sacrifice to honor gods who control disease, according to cosmic purposes that might require human death to restore divine favor and end. Supernatural punishment administered through medical afflictions serving spiritual purposes requiring human cooperation with divine will. So you receive Norse medical attention while knowing that healing knowledge comes from torture experience, that medical treatment might serve experimental purposes requiring your suffering for educational advancement, and that your recovery creates spiritual obligation to gods who might demand payment through your participation in medical procedures serving both practical and religious purposes. And now that you've experienced medicine in a culture where healing and torture serve the same cosmic purposes, it's time to eat dinner in a society where every meal might be your last, and where the food itself carries spiritual significance that could determine whether you're being nourished for continued labor or being prepared for artistic sacrifice requiring proper nutritional conditioning. After a long day of learning that Norse culture transforms every human activity into religious art serving cosmic purposes, it's finally time for dinner in a society where every meal might be your last, and where the food itself determines whether you're being nourished for continued slave labor or being prepared for the most honored death in Viking culture, the blood eagle ceremony that transforms your back into wings for the entertainment of gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human anatomy. Your evening meal as a captured Christian slave consists of whatever Norse masters consider appropriate nutrition for human property, whose value must be maintained for religious purposes, while avoiding waste of food resources on humans who might be sacrificed before completing useful labor projects. Every bite is calculated according to your spiritual and economic utility. The bread served with dinner is made from grains that have been blessed by Norse priests and consecrated for feeding both living humans and sacrificial victims according to religious requirements that ensure proper spiritual preparation for whatever fate awaits captured Christians in ceremonies that honor gods through artistic transformation of human flesh into divine entertainment. Meat, when available, comes from animals that have been sacrificed according to Norse religious protocols that involve specific killing techniques designed to honor animal spirits while providing nutritional and spiritual sustenance for human consumption. The same ritual knowledge used for animal sacrifice applies to human sacrifice, and the meat reminds you of your potential fate. The most unsettling aspect of Norse dining is that meal quality indicates your likely fate. Elaborate meals with expensive, Ingredients suggest you're being prepared for important religious ceremonies that require well-nourished victims whose deaths will honor gods through artistic applications of creative killing techniques that demand physically perfect human materials for optimal spiritual and aesthetic results. Simple meals with basic nutrition suggest you're being maintained for continued labor rather than being prepared for immediate sacrifice. But even subsistence feeding serves religious purposes, because gods judge human worth through human utility, and adequate nutrition maintains your value for whatever cosmic purposes might eventually require your participation. The timing of your meals is determined by Norse religious calendar calculations that ensure feeding schedules align with spiritual requirements for various ceremonies. You eat when gods permit feeding. You fast when gods require hunger to prepare. You for religious participation, and you feast when gods demand celebration that might include your artistic death. Drinking during dinner involves sacred beverages that serve both nutritional and spiritual purposes. Mead made from honey blessed by priests connects you to gods who control sweetness and pleasure while preparing you for potential religious ceremonies that might require intoxicated participants who can appreciate the honor of serving divine purposes through beautiful death. Ale served to captive slaves includes herbs that provide both nutritional benefits and spiritual effects that prepare you for potential religious participation. Some herbs enhance courage for facing artistic death. Others improve pain tolerance for torture sessions, and others create spiritual openness for receiving divine communication about your cosmic significance. The most disturbing realization about Norse dining is that every meal might be designed to prepare you for specific types of sacrifice that require particular nutritional conditioning. Rich foods prepare you for elaborate ceremonies honoring important gods, while simple foods prepare you for basic rituals serving minor spiritual purposes, requiring less impressive human offerings. Dining companions include other captured slaves who represent different stages of preparation for various religious purposes. Some are being maintained for long-term labor, others are being conditioned for immediate sacrifice, and the meal arrangements provide information about Norse evaluation of your spiritual and economic utility compared to other human property. Conversation during dinner is monitored by Norse masters who evaluate slave attitudes, spiritual condition, and potential resistance to religious participation that might be required for cosmic purposes. Your responses to various topics indicate your readiness for different types of divine service, ranging from continued labor to artistic death, depending on current spiritual requirements. The dishes used for serving food are decorated with religious imagery that reminds you constantly of Norse cosmology and divine expectations for human behavior. Images of gods, mythological scenes, and ritualized death surround every meal to ensure you understand the spiritual context in which you exist as human property serving cosmic purposes. Food preparation involves religious protocols that consecrate ingredients for feeding both living slaves and potential sacrificial victims according to divine requirements. The same kitchen techniques used for preparing regular meals are used for preparing the final feast traditionally served to humans who will participate in blood eagle ceremonies as the artistic centerpiece. Seasonal foods reflect Norse agricultural cycles and religious calendar requirements that determine appropriate nutrition for different times of year based on divine expectations and cosmic needs. Spring foods prepare for raiding season. Summer foods sustain military campaigns. Autumn foods prepare for winter ceremonies. And winter foods maintain human resources for spring sacrifices. Your appetite is affected by growing awareness that each meal brings you closer to potential selection for the blood eagle ceremony that represents the most honored death in Norse culture. The better you eat, the healthier you become, and the more suitable you are for elaborate religious ceremonies, requiring physically perfect victims whose deaths serve cosmic entertainment. Nordic cuisine includes foods that serve both nutritional and symbolic purposes related to death and spiritual transformation. Blood pudding connects you to concepts of life force and sacrifice, while other dishes incorporate ingredients that prepare you psychologically for accepting your potential role in religious ceremonies that honor gods through human cooperation with artistic death. The most terrifying aspect of Norse dining is that every meal could be your last meal before being selected for blood eagle sacrifice, but you have no way of knowing whether tonight's dinner is routine slave feeding or ceremonial preparation. For tomorrow's artistic death that will transform your back into wings. For the entertainment of gods who appreciate human anatomy, arranged according to divine aesthetic preferences. Kitchen slaves who prepare your food have been trained in both regular cooking and the specialized food preparation required for humans who will participate in blood eagle ceremonies. Their knowledge includes both sustaining life and preparing for death, and they evaluate your spiritual readiness while serving meals that might be your final earthly sustenance. Storage of food involves religious protocols that ensure ingredients remain spiritually pure for feeding both slaves and sacrificial victims according to divine requirements. Contaminated food might make you unsuitable for religious ceremonies that require pure human offerings, whose deaths serve cosmic purposes through artistic transformation of healthy flesh into divine entertainment. So, you eat your Norse dinner while knowing that every bite might be preparation for blood eagle sacrifice. Every meal might be your last, and every moment of nourishment serves cosmic purposes that include maintaining your value as human property, whose ultimate fate will be determined by gods who judge human worth through human willingness to become art. And now that you're properly nourished for whatever fate awaits captured Christians in Norse lands, it's time for evening prayers to gods who might answer by selecting you for the most honored death in Viking culture, the blood eagle ceremony that will transform your living flesh into wings that honor divine appreciation for human creativity applied to human destruction. It's evening now in the Norse lands, where you've learned that every human activity serves cosmic purposes requiring potential human sacrifice. You've worked for gods who judge human value through human utility, eaten food that might prepare you for artistic death, and maintained your health in ways that increase your suitability for religious ceremonies. But evening is when the gods are most active, most hungry, and most likely to demand the blood eagle sacrifice that transforms human backs into wings for divine entertainment. Evening prayers in Norse culture aren't optional religious observances. They're life and death requirements that demonstrate your spiritual submission to gods who might spare your life for continued service or claim your life for artistic sacrifice, depending on divine appetite for human creativity applied to human anatomy in ceremonies that honor cosmic powers through beautiful death. Your participation in Norse evening prayers requires abandoning Christian concepts of divine mercy and accepting pagan concepts of divine hunger that can only be satisfied through human offerings, including the blood eagle sacrifice that represents the ultimate artistic transformation of human flesh into divine entertainment, requiring human cooperation with cosmic aesthetic vision. The prayers themselves are addressed primarily to Odin, the one-eyed god who collects warriors and wise men for his cosmic army, while also appreciating artistic death that demonstrates human creativity applied to human destruction. Odin judges human worth through human willingness to serve divine purposes, including potential transformation, into religious art that honors gods through skillful suffering. Your Christian education makes you particularly valuable for evening prayers that require victims who understand theological irony while providing informed commentary on the superior power of Norse gods over Christian concepts of salvation through spiritual relationship with divine forces that actually care about human welfare, rather than simply consuming human flesh for cosmic entertainment. Incense burning during evening prayers includes substances that carry human requests to divine realms, while also preparing human participants for potential religious utilization, including sacrifice ceremonies that require proper spiritual conditioning. The smoke that carries prayers also carries the spiritual energy of humans who might be transformed into divine offerings. Self-sacrifice rituals are required elements of evening prayers that demonstrate human willingness to shed blood for divine purposes. You must cut yourself with sacred knives and offer your blood to gods who judge human devotion through human readiness for larger sacrifice, including the blood eagle ceremony that honors divine appetite for artistic human death. The bloodletting involved in evening prayers serves both spiritual and practical purposes, proving your devotion to Norse gods while also providing priests with opportunities to evaluate your pain tolerance, blood quality, and spiritual readiness for elaborate sacrifice ceremonies that might require your cooperation with artistic death. that honors cosmic powers through creative suffering. Children participate in evening prayers by learning to cut themselves and offer blood to gods who judge human worth through human willingness to suffer for divine purposes. Childhood religious education includes preparation for potential sacrifice through systematic conditioning that makes artistic death seem like spiritual privilege rather than cruel murder. Family prayer sessions include confession of daily activities that might have offended gods and created spiritual debt that could be paid through individual sacrifice rather than collective punishment. But confessing sins to Norse gods is dangerous because it provides divine justification for demanding your death as spiritual payment for cosmic infractions. The household shrine contains images of Norse gods who must be fed with daily offerings of food, drink, and blood to maintain their protection and prevent them from selecting family members for sacrifice. Even family gods have limited loyalty that must be maintained through constant offering of human spiritual energy and potential human life. Evening prayers include recitation of skaldic poetry that celebrates the blood eagle and other forms of artistic death that honor gods through human creativity applied to human destruction. Learning these poems prepares you psychologically for potential participation in ceremonies that transform human suffering into divine entertainment through skilled application of creative torture techniques. The most unsettling aspect of Norse evening prayers is that devout worship increases your likelihood of being selected for blood eagle sacrifice because gods prefer to consume humans who demonstrate genuine spiritual devotion rather than humans who participate in religious activities only through fear or social obligation. Personal meditation during evening prayers involves contemplating your potential value as artistic sacrifice and preparing mentally for the possibility that tomorrow might bring selection for blood eagle ceremony that will honor gods through transformation of your back into wings while you remain conscious to appreciate the divine artistry being applied to your flesh. Seasonal prayers vary according to Norse religious calendar that determines which gods require feeding during different times of year. Winter prayers often focus on Odin, who appreciates wise sacrifice during dark months when cosmic forces require human spiritual energy to maintain universal balance through artistic applications of creative death-serving divine entertainment. The prayer positions required for evening observance include physical arrangements that prepare your body for potential sacrifice while demonstrating spiritual submission to divine authority. Kneeling in specific ways prepares you for blood eagle positioning while showing gods your readiness for religious transformation from living human to artistic corpse. Community prayers bring together multiple households for collective worship that makes everyone visible to gods who might select individuals for sacrifice, while also creating group spiritual energy that honors divine powers through shared devotion and mutual readiness for serving cosmic purposes through individual death. Women's evening prayers include special observances to goddesses who control feminine spiritual energy and might require female sacrifice for cosmic purposes. But women also pray to masculine gods who appreciate feminine suffering as particularly valuable spiritual material for ceremonies requiring gender-specific artistic death that honors divine power through creative destruction of feminine flesh. The most disturbing realization about Norse evening prayers is that every religious observance increases your visibility to gods who are constantly evaluating humans for potential sacrifice. The more devout you become, the more attention you attract from divine powers who might decide your devotion qualifies you for blood eagle honor. Evening prayers conclude with requests for protection through the night and gratitude for surviving another day without being chosen for sacrifice. But gratitude for survival creates obligation to gods who might collect on that debt by demanding your artistic death as payment for divine protection that allowed you to live long enough to become properly grateful. Priests monitor evening prayers to identify humans who demonstrate appropriate spiritual readiness for blood eagle ceremony, while also evaluating community religious performance and individual suitability for various types of sacrifice that serve different cosmic purposes, requiring different levels of human cooperation with divine artistic vision. Your participation in Norse evening prayers involves constant awareness that devotion might be rewarded with selection for the most honored death in Viking culture, and that every prayer might be answered by gods who decide your blood eagle sacrifice. would serve cosmic purposes better than your continued existence as captured Christian slave. So you pray with genuine fear, while knowing that fear might attract divine attention from gods who appreciate human terror as evidence of proper spiritual understanding, and that your evening prayers might be your last conscious religious activity, before being selected for artistic transformation into divine entertainment through blood eagle sacrifice. And in a culture where evening prayers and artistic death are inseparable aspects of religious devotion, women face additional spiritual dangers because goddesses have particular appetites for feminine sacrifice that serves cosmic purposes requiring specifically female suffering to maintain universal balance through gender-specific applications of creative torture that honors divine power through artistic destruction of feminine flesh. If you thought being a captured Christian monk in Norse culture was terrifying, imagine being a woman in Viking society where feminine existence involves all the same threats of artistic death, plus gender-specific spiritual dangers that make women particularly valuable to goddesses who have appetites for feminine suffering and feminine spiritual energy that serves cosmic purposes requiring specifically female sacrifice. From the moment a girl is born in Norse society, her life path is determined by goddesses who control feminine aspects of existence, while also demanding feminine death to maintain cosmic balance. Feminine biology, feminine skills, and feminine, spiritual energy all make women valuable for different types of religious sacrifice that honor goddesses through creative applications of artistic torture designed specifically for feminine flesh. Your education as a captured Christian woman includes learning Norse concepts of feminine value that measure women through their utility for domestic service, sexual service, reproductive service, and religious service that might culminate in artistic death, honoring goddesses who appreciate feminine cooperation with divine requirements for maintaining universal stability through gender-specific sacrifice. Marriage in Norse society involves women becoming property of Viking men while remaining spiritually available for selection by goddesses who might require feminine sacrifice for cosmic purposes. Marriage provides some protection from human exploitation, while increasing exposure to divine exploitation that views married women as particularly valuable spiritual material for religious ceremonies. Domestic work performed by women serves both practical and religious purposes, because maintaining households honors goddesses who control feminine activities, while demonstrating feminine skills that might qualify women for elaborate sacrifice. Ceremonies requiring victims who understand proper appreciation of feminine arts, transformed into spiritual entertainment through artistic death. The textile work that women perform involves creating goods that serve both economic and spiritual purposes, including burial shrouds for sacrificial victims and ceremonial decorations for religious events that might require feminine participation, through various forms of contribution ranging from witness to sacrifice depending on divine appetite for feminine spiritual energy. Cooking performed by women involves constant interaction with fire goddesses, who must be honored through regular offerings and occasional feminine sacrifice to maintain divine cooperation with domestic activities. Women who cook are particularly connected to fire deities who have specific appetites for feminine flesh transformed into religious art through burning. The most unsettling aspect of feminine existence in Norse culture is that every feminine skill and every feminine biological function increases women's value for religious sacrifice. Pregnancy makes women valuable to birth goddesses. Weaving makes women valuable to textile goddesses. Cooking makes women valuable to fire goddesses. And healing makes women valuable to death goddesses who appreciate feminine knowledge applied to creative torture. Religious festivals throughout the Norse calendar include ceremonies that require feminine sacrifice to honor various goddesses and maintain cosmic functions that depend on feminine spiritual energy. The spring fertility festivals require young women to honor reproductive goddesses, while winter death festivals require older women to honor underworld goddesses who control feminine spiritual transformation. Captured Christian women face additional religious dangers because goddesses find Christian feminine spiritual energy particularly valuable for ceremonies that demonstrate pagan superiority over Christian concepts of feminine virtue and divine protection. Christian women's prayers to their god become evidence of spiritual power that goddesses want to consume through artistic sacrifice. The goddesses who control feminine fate in Norse cosmology aren't benevolent mother figures, they're cosmic forces, with unlimited appetite for feminine suffering that can only be temporarily satisfied through systematic killing of women whose deaths serve divine entertainment, while maintaining universal balance through regular applications of feminine sacrifice. Sexual violence against women in Norse society isn't just a social problem. It's religious activity that honors goddesses who control feminine sexuality through divine management of feminine pain and feminine submission to masculine and divine authority. Rape serves cosmic purposes by demonstrating divine power over feminine autonomy, while preparing women for potential religious sacrifice. Childbirth represents both the most sacred and most dangerous experience in women's lives, because birth goddesses might demand maternal sacrifice to ensure successful delivery or infant sacrifice to demonstrate divine control over reproductive outcomes. Every pregnancy involves negotiation with goddesses who judge feminine worth through feminine willingness to sacrifice maternal life for cosmic purposes. Women who survive childbirth are spiritually marked by goddesses who might claim them for future sacrifice, because maternal survival demonstrates divine favor that creates spiritual debt requiring payment through artistic death. Surviving childbirth increases women's likelihood of being selected for elaborate religious ceremonies that honor birth goddesses through creative torture. The healing knowledge that women possess makes them particularly valuable for sacrifice. Ceremonies that require victims who understand pain, anatomy, and death, while providing informed commentary on their artistic transformation from living women to beautiful corpses serving divine entertainment through skilled application of feminine cooperation with cosmic aesthetic vision. Older women who have completed reproductive cycles are valued for different types of sacrifice because their accumulated feminine wisdom makes them suitable offerings to goddesses who require mature, feminine spiritual energy for cosmic maintenance. Menopause marks women as ready for religious utilization through artistic death that honors divine appreciation for feminine life experience. The most disturbing realization about feminine existence in Norse culture is that every feminine achievement, every biological milestone, and every demonstration of feminine competence increases women's value as sacrificial offerings. Success as a woman directly correlates with likelihood of being chosen for artistic death that honors goddesses through creative destruction of feminine excellence. Women's religious education includes detailed knowledge of which goddesses require, which types of feminine sacrifice, under which circumstances, while also preparing women psychologically for potential selection through systematic conditioning that makes artistic death seem like feminine spiritual privilege rather than gender-specific. Murder serving divine entertainment. Feminine clothing in Norse society includes garments designed to display women's suitability for various types of religious sacrifice, while also providing practical protection and social identification. Certain colors attract attention from certain goddesses, and certain styles indicate feminine readiness for specific types of cosmic participation through artistic death. The seasonal cycles that govern feminine biological functions are synchronized with religious calendar that determines appropriate times for feminine sacrifice according to divine requirements and cosmic needs. Women's bodies are viewed as cosmic, resources that must be utilized according to spiritual scheduling that honors goddesses through systematic applications of feminine death. Your survival as a captured Christian woman in Norse culture depends on remaining useful enough for continued domestic service, while avoiding divine attention from goddesses who might decide your feminine spiritual energy would serve cosmic purposes. Better through artistic death than through continued labor-serving human households. So you navigate feminine existence in Viking society while knowing that every feminine activity connects you to goddesses who judge feminine worth through feminine utility for cosmic purposes, that every biological function increases your value as potential sacrifice, and that feminine survival depends on divine decision about whether living women or dead women better serve current spiritual requirements. And in a civilization where feminine existence carries gender-specific spiritual dangers, violence against women isn't just individual cruelty, it's systematic religious practice that serves cosmic purposes requiring feminine suffering to maintain. Divine relationships through organized applications of artistic torture that honors goddesses through creative destruction of feminine flesh, serving divine entertainment. So far, You've survived daily life as human property in a culture where gods judge human worth through human utility for various cosmic purposes, including artistic death. You've learned Norse religious practices that make devotion dangerous, navigated gender-specific spiritual hazards if you're a woman, and discovered that every aspect of Viking civilization serves ultimate purposes, requiring human creativity applied to human destruction. But now comes the systematic violence that isn't just warfare or crime. It's sacred duty, religious obligation, and cosmic necessity that maintains universal balance through regular applications of ritualized human death transformed into divine entertainment. Let's be absolutely clear. Norse civilization isn't just violent. It's organized around violence as the fundamental mechanism of spiritual relationship with gods who demand artistic death to maintain cosmic order and prevent universal collapse. Every type of violence serves religious purposes, and every religious purpose requires violence to achieve divine goals that can't be accomplished through peaceful methods. The most obvious violence is human sacrifice, but Norse sacrifice isn't. Random killing. It's carefully planned, precisely executed, and spiritually necessary art that feeds gods who would otherwise withdraw their support from human civilization. The priests who perform sacrifice aren't murderers. They're cosmic artists, whose medium is human flesh, and whose audience consists of gods, who judge artistic merit through human suffering. Ritual combat serves both entertainment and religious purposes by providing opportunities for artistic death that honors war gods while demonstrating proper appreciation for violence as spiritual practice. Gladiatorial combat between captured enemies creates beautiful death that serves divine entertainment while teaching Norse observers about correct attitudes toward creative killing. The violence isn't spontaneous or emotional, it's calculated, systematic, and administratively managed through religious bureaucracy that schedules different types of killing for different divine purposes, according to calendar calculations that ensure gods receive appropriate offerings at appropriate times. To maintain cosmic balance through precisely timed applications of human death, domestic violence within Norse families is regulated by religious law that determines which types of physical punishment serve divine purposes and which types constitute crime against cosmic order. Violence must serve spiritual purposes rather than personal anger, and gods judge human violence through divine standards that require artistic merit rather than simple brutality. The violence against children includes systematic conditioning that prepares young Norse citizens for participation in adult violence, while also providing opportunities for child sacrifice when gods require specifically young spiritual energy. Children learn to appreciate violence as normal social activity that serves cosmic purposes through creative applications of artistic death. Public executions serve educational purposes by demonstrating proper techniques for artistic killing while honoring gods through community participation in religious violence. Executions aren't just punishment, they're instruction that teaches Norse society about divine expectations for human cooperation, with cosmic requirements demanding creative destruction of human life. The most unsettling aspect of Norse violence is that it's completely normalized through religious justification that makes killing not just acceptable, but morally necessary for maintaining universal stability. Adults compete for opportunities to participate in artistic death, and children learn that violence is the highest form of service to cosmic forces. Warfare isn't fought primarily for territory or resources. It's fought to provide opportunities for artistic death that honors war gods while demonstrating divine favor through military success. Victory proves proper religious observance, while defeat indicates insufficient sacrifice and requires additional artistic death to restore divine relationships. The Blood Eagle ceremony represents the ultimate form of Norse religious violence, a systematic torture technique that transforms human backs into wings while victims remain conscious to appreciate the artistry being applied to their flesh. This isn't just execution. It's performance art that requires skill, timing, and spiritual preparation to achieve proper cosmic effects. Violence against women includes gender-specific torture techniques that serve goddesses who require feminine suffering for cosmic purposes. Women are subjected to artistic death that honors divine feminine power while demonstrating Norse understanding of spiritual relationships that require systematic destruction of feminine flesh serving religious entertainment. The economic system depends on violence because wealth comes from raiding that provides both material goods and opportunities for artistic killing. Peaceful trade exists, but warfare remains the primary economic activity because gods prefer wealth acquired through violence that demonstrates proper spiritual attitude toward cosmic relationships requiring creative death. Criminal justice involves artistic punishment that serves gods as well as social order. Thieves are killed in ceremonies that create beautiful death. Murderers are sacrificed through elaborate torture that honors death gods. And every crime creates opportunity for religious violence that transforms legal punishment into divine offering. The most disturbing realization about Norse violence is that it's considered the highest form of human creativity, artistic expression that requires skill, spiritual understanding, and divine inspiration to transform killing into beautiful death that serves cosmic entertainment while demonstrating human cooperation with divine aesthetic requirements. Educational violence teaches Norse children to participate in artistic death from early ages through systematic conditioning that makes creative killing seem like normal social activity. Children practice torture techniques through games that prepare them for adult religious responsibilities, requiring comfort with systematic human destruction serving divine purposes. Social violence maintains cultural cohesion through shared participation in religious killing that makes every Norse citizen complicit in cosmic maintenance, requiring regular human sacrifice. Community involvement in artistic death creates social bonds while honoring gods through collective demonstration of proper spiritual attitudes toward creative violence. The temple complexes where religious violence occurs are designed as theaters for divine entertainment, where gods observe human artistic death while judging community religious performance. Architecture serves both practical and spiritual purposes by providing appropriate venues for creative killing that honors divine appreciation for human artistry applied to human destruction. Seasonal violence follows a religious calendar that determines appropriate times for different types of artistic death based on divine requirements and cosmic cycles. Spring violence honors fertility gods through sacrifice of young victims, while winter violence honors death gods through elaborate torture of mature victims, whose suffering provides divine entertainment during dark months. Your daily exposure to Norse violence involves constant participation in religious killing that makes you complicit in cosmic maintenance while preparing you psychologically for potential selection as sacrificial victim. Every witnessed death serves as education about proper attitudes toward creative violence that might eventually be applied to your own flesh. The beauty of Norse violence lies in its artistic sophistication rather than crude brutality. Killing becomes performance art that requires years of training to master, spiritual guidance to execute properly, and divine inspiration to achieve. Cosmic significance that honors gods through human creativity applied to human destruction serving religious entertainment. Professional killers in Norse society aren't just warriors, they're artists, priests, and craftsmen who understand death as medium for creative expression that serves divine purposes. The Blood Eagle executioner must possess surgical skill, religious knowledge, and artistic vision to transform human torture into cosmic beauty that pleases gods who judge human worth through human willingness to become art. Your survival in Norse culture depends on understanding that violence isn't a social problem to be solved, but cosmic necessity to be embraced through proper spiritual attitude that honors gods while demonstrating human cooperation with divine requirements. For artistic death that maintains universal stability through regular applications of creative killing serving religious purposes. So you live with sacred violence while knowing that any day you might transition from witness to victim, that your death would serve cosmic purposes more important than your individual survival, and that the sophisticated, artistic, spiritually, meaningful violence that surrounds you represents the highest achievement of Norse civilization serving divine entertainment through human creativity applied to human destruction. But even in a civilization organized around artistic killing, human death eventually comes through the ultimate Norse religious violence. the blood eagle ceremony that transforms human suffering into divine art, requiring victims who understand their cosmic significance while cooperating with torture that creates beautiful death-serving gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human anatomy. At this point, you've learned to work for gods who judge human value through utility for artistic death, participated in religious observances that attract divine attention from deities who appreciate human suffering, and if you're a woman, navigated gender-specific spiritual dangers while witnessing systematic violence that's been sanctified through religious justification. But now comes the final chapter of your existence as captured Christian property. Selection for the blood eagle ceremony that will transform your back into wings for the entertainment of gods who judge human worth through human willingness to become religious art. The blood eagle isn't just execution, it's the most honored death in Norse culture, reserved for enemies worthy of artistic transformation and victims whose suffering will provide maximum spiritual value for cosmic purposes. Your selection for this ceremony indicates that Norse priests have determined your death will serve important religious functions while demonstrating proper artistic techniques that honor gods through creative applications of human cooperation with divine aesthetic vision. The preparation for blood eagle ceremony involves extensive spiritual conditioning that ensures your death achieves proper cosmic significance, while providing appropriate entertainment for divine audiences who appreciate skilled torture administered through religious protocols, requiring victim cooperation with artistic transformation from living human to beautiful corpse-serving spiritual purposes. Your final meal before the ceremony consists of foods specifically chosen to enhance your spiritual value, while maintaining physical condition necessary for elaborate torture that requires conscious participation in artistic death. The nutrition serves both practical and religious purposes by ensuring your body can withstand extended suffering while your spirit remains alert to appreciate cosmic significance. The ritual cleansing that prepares you for blood eagle ceremony involves washing your body with sacred substances that purify your flesh for divine consumption, while removing spiritual contamination that might interfere with proper artistic death. Physical cleanliness serves religious requirements that demand perfect human materials for cosmic entertainment. The spiritual preparation includes instruction about your cosmic significance as sacrificial offering and your role in religious performance that will honor gods through demonstration of human creativity applied to human anatomy. Understanding your theological importance helps you cooperate with torture that serves divine purposes rather than simply personal cruelty. The ceremony begins with prayers that dedicate your death to Odin and other gods who appreciate artistic sacrifice, while invoking divine presence to witness human transformation from living victim to religious art. Your suffering becomes sacred offering that feeds cosmic forces while demonstrating Norse spiritual superiority over Christian concepts of merciful death. The initial stages involve positioning your body for optimal artistic access while restraining you in ways that prevent interference with religious procedures, requiring precise applications of torture techniques. Physical preparation serves both practical and spiritual purposes by ensuring proper artistic conditions for cosmic entertainment that honors gods through skilled suffering. The blood eagle procedure itself requires surgical precision, religious knowledge, and artistic vision to achieve proper cosmic effects while providing maximum spiritual value for divine audiences. The executioner must possess medical skill, spiritual authority, and creative inspiration to transform human torture into beautiful death that serves religious entertainment. Your ribs are carefully separated from your spine using consecrated knives while you remain conscious to participate in religious transformation that honors gods through human cooperation with artistic death. The surgical technique requires skill that preserves life during extended torture while creating proper artistic effects that serve cosmic entertainment requiring victim awareness. The lung extraction involves removing your breathing organs and arranging them outside your body to create wing-like appearance that honors the eagle sacred to Odin while demonstrating human transformation into religious art. Your lungs become literal wings that serve both artistic and spiritual purposes through creative applications of anatomical knowledge. Throughout the procedure, You're expected to maintain conscious participation in religious ceremony while providing appropriate responses to various stages of artistic transformation. Your screams become sacred music, your prayers become spiritual offerings, and your suffering becomes cosmic entertainment that honors gods through human creativity applied to human destruction. The salt application to your exposed organs serves both practical and spiritual purposes by preserving artistic effects while enhancing pain that demonstrates proper appreciation for divine honor being bestowed through selection for blood eagle death. Chemical pain enhancement serves religious requirements for maximizing spiritual value of human sacrifice. The most unsettling aspect of blood eagle ceremony is that it's considered the ultimate privilege in Norse culture, the highest honor that can be bestowed on human beings whose deaths serve cosmic purposes more important than individual survival. Your artistic transformation represents spiritual promotion rather than cruel murder. Witnesses to Blood Eagle ceremony include community members who observe religious performance while learning proper attitudes toward artistic death that serves divine entertainment. Community participation creates social bonds while honoring gods through collective appreciation of human creativity applied to human suffering, serving cosmic purposes. The priests who conduct Blood Eagle ceremony are trained in surgical techniques, religious protocols, and artistic standards that ensure proper spiritual significance while maximizing entertainment value for divine audiences. Professional competence serves both practical and religious requirements for maintaining cosmic relationships through skilled human sacrifice. Your death through Blood Eagle ceremony achieves spiritual significance that transcends individual mortality, while serving cosmic purposes that require human cooperation with divine aesthetic vision. Individual suffering becomes cosmic beauty, personal death becomes religious art, and human pain becomes divine entertainment that maintains universal balance through artistic sacrifice. The preservation of your body after death serves ongoing, religious purposes because Blood Eagle victims continue serving cosmic functions through spiritual presence that honors gods while inspiring community appreciation for artistic death. Your corpse becomes permanent religious artifact that demonstrates proper spiritual relationships. The most disturbing realization about Blood Eagle death is that it represents the logical culmination of Norse religious culture, where human value is measured through human willingness to serve cosmic purposes requiring creative destruction of human life. Your artistic death proves your spiritual worth while honoring gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human anatomy. Community celebration following Blood Eagle ceremony includes feasting, storytelling, and religious observance that honors your sacrifice while demonstrating proper appreciation for artistic death that serves divine entertainment. Your suffering provides spiritual material for ongoing religious activities that maintain cosmic relationships through community participation in sacred violence. The legacy of your Blood Eagle death includes inspiration for future artistic sacrifices that will honor gods through creative applications of torture techniques demonstrated during your religious transformation. Your death becomes educational material that advances Norse understanding of proper spiritual relationships requiring human cooperation with divine aesthetic requirements. So you experience Blood Eagle ceremony while knowing that you're artistic. Death serves cosmic purposes more important than individual survival, that your suffering provides divine entertainment that maintains universal balance, and that your transformation from living human to religious art represents the highest spiritual achievement possible in Norse culture, serving gods who appreciate human creativity applied to human destruction. Your wings spread in death, while your spirit serves ongoing cosmic purposes that require continued participation in divine entertainment through spiritual presence that honors gods who judge human worth through human willingness to become beautiful. Art serving religious purposes requiring creative destruction of human life for cosmic maintenance. So, how's your day been in the lands of the Norse gods? You've woken up to dragon ships bringing death from the sea, been captured by professional human collectors who worship through warfare, survived transport across hostile waters as valuable human cargo, learned to work for gods who judge human worth through artistic potential, experienced weather controlled by deities demanding blood payment, drunk sacred water while preparing for potential drowning rituals, received medical attention that combines healing with torture expertise, eaten meals that might be your last while being evaluated for sacrifice, prayed to gods who might answer with your artistic death, and if you're a woman, navigated additional spiritual dangers in a culture where feminine existence serves cosmic purposes requiring creative destruction of feminine flesh. Welcome to a complete day in Viking culture, where survival is temporary privilege granted by gods who could demand your artistic death at any moment for cosmic purposes you're not qualified to understand. Still romanticizing Viking civilization, still believing noble warrior myths about Norse honor and courage. Think again, and think carefully about what spiritual sophistication actually meant when applied to systematic human sacrifice disguised as religious art. That romanticized version of Viking culture, honorable warriors defending Norse values, wise skalds preserving ancient wisdom, heroic explorers discovering new lands through courage and skill. It's a myth that ignores the systematic terror, artistic killing, and psychological horror of living in a society where human sacrifice was performance art, and your screams were sacred music for gods who fed on human creativity, applied to human destruction. In truth, the Norse world was beautiful, sophisticated, and absolutely terrifying for anyone who wasn't a warrior, priest, or nobleman with sufficient power to avoid sacrifice while ensuring that other people died to feed gods who demanded regular artistic death to maintain cosmic balance. The magnificent culture, the advanced seafaring, the poetic achievements, the intellectual accomplishments, all were built on foundation of systematic human killing that made other contemporary cultures look restrained by comparison. Social hierarchy in Viking civilization was determined by proximity to divine violence, which meant proximity to artistic death. If you were born into warrior families, you controlled sacrifice, but also risked being sacrificed if you failed in military duties or offended gods who demanded warrior death. If you were born common, you were raw material for divine consumption, whose survival depended entirely on remaining useful enough to postpone eventual artistic transformation. Even Norse nobility lived with constant awareness that their elevated status made them more valuable as sacrificial offerings when gods required high-quality human death rather than common peasant death. Wealth, education, and social position increased your value to gods who judged human worth through human suitability for elaborate religious ceremonies requiring artistic cooperation with creative torture. The advanced civilization aspects of Norse culture, the navigation, the metallurgy, the poetry, the law codes, the trading networks, all served the fundamental purpose of maintaining cosmic balance through systematic human sacrifice transformed into religious art. Every cultural achievement was applied to making human killing more beautiful, more meaningful, and more spiritually significant. Life in Viking society wasn't living in harmony with natural forces. It was living in terror of divine appetite that could never be permanently satisfied and always demanded additional human offerings to maintain cosmic balance. Every successful raid required human sacrifice to ensure future military success. Every good harvest required human death to ensure continued agricultural prosperity. Every favorable weather pattern required artistic killing to maintain divine cooperation. The spiritual wisdom of Norse religion was sophisticated theological justification for mass murder on scales that served cosmic entertainment, requiring human creativity applied to human destruction. The gods weren't benevolent nature spirits. They were cosmic forces with unlimited appetite for human suffering that could only be temporarily satisfied through systematic killing, organized as performance art. Your daily existence in Viking civilization involved constant calculation of sacrificial risk, religious obligation, and divine attention. Every action could increase or decrease your likelihood of being chosen for artistic death. Every prayer could attract divine notice that resulted in selection for blood eagle ceremony. Every achievement could make you more valuable as offering to gods who preferred their human sacrifices to demonstrate excellence in human activities. The psychological trauma of living under constant threat of religiously justified artistic murder affected every aspect of Norse society. Children learned to participate in human sacrifice as normal cultural activity, while preparing for potential selection as sacrificial victims. Adults competed for religious positions that involved systematic killing, while maintaining readiness for their own artistic death. Families celebrated when relatives were chosen for sacrifice because artistic death brought divine honor. The economic system depended on continuous warfare to capture victims for sacrifice and continuous population growth to replace sacrificial losses, while maintaining adequate human resources for production, exploration, and military expansion. The culture existed to feed gods who consumed human beings faster than humans could reproduce, to replace artistic casualties. But here's the most remarkable aspect of Norse civilization. Despite the systematic terror, the constant threat of artistic death, and the psychological horror of living in a society organized around human sacrifice as performance art, people still found ways to love, to create, to hope, and to find meaning in existence that transcended the cosmic horror surrounding them, not because life in Viking society was pleasant or safe or reasonable, but because human resilience exceeds human imagination, and people adapt to circumstances that would seem unendurable to outsiders. Norse families loved their children even, while knowing those children might be selected for artistic sacrifice. Norse artists created beauty, even while knowing their art served religious ceremonies requiring human death. Norse individuals found personal meaning even while living in civilization designed to consume them for cosmic entertainment. The end of Viking sacrifice culture came not through moral awakening or cultural evolution, but through Christian conquest that replaced one form of systematic violence with different forms of systematic violence. The Christian missionaries who converted Norse lands were horrified by artistic sacrifice while practicing their own forms of religiously justified murder through crusades, inquisitions, and colonial exploitation. The Christians didn't end human sacrifice because they were more humane. They ended it because they practiced different religious violence that served different cosmic purposes according to different divine authorities who demanded different types of human suffering to maintain different versions of cosmic order. Christianity provided alternative justifications for systematic killing that served Christian gods rather than Norse gods. The final lesson of Norse civilization isn't about Viking barbarism or Christian salvation. It's about human capacity for creating sophisticated justifications for systematic violence, when that violence serves the purposes of people with sufficient power to define religious truth and cosmic necessity. Every civilization develops theological explanations for whatever killing serves the interests of ruling classes who control religious interpretation. Today, when you slip into safe beds without worrying about being selected for Blood Eagle ceremony, remember that safety from religiously justified artistic murder isn't a natural condition of human existence. It's temporary achievement that requires constant vigilance against people who claim divine authority for systematic violence serving cosmic purposes that conveniently align with personal power and social control. The sun sets over Scandinavian fjords that once reflected dragon ships carrying death to distant shores, where human achievement and human sacrifice were inseparable aspects of civilization that reached remarkable cultural heights while requiring systematic artistic killing to maintain cosmic balance through creative destruction of human life serving divine entertainment. Your screen fades to black, like the obsidian blades that carved wings from human backs for the entertainment of gods who judged human worth through human willingness to become religious art. The next 6 hours of gentle rain sounds are designed for minds that have witnessed systematic terror disguised as spiritual sophistication, hearts that have felt psychological pressure of living under constant threat of artistic death, and souls that understand how beautiful civilizations can justify systematic killing through sophisticated theology. Sleep well, knowing that the Blood Eagle altars have been abandoned, the sacrificial knives have been put away, and the gods who once demanded human wings carved from living backs have been replaced by different authorities who demand different types of human sacrifice for different cosmic purposes, serving different divine entertainment. The Norse culture that seemed eternal to its participants proved temporary despite its sophisticated theology and systematic artistic violence. Human civilizations built on religious killing eventually collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. But new civilizations arise with new justifications for systematic death, serving new cosmic purposes, requiring new forms of human sacrifice. Good night. And remember, the wings that could have been carved from your back were once considered the most beautiful offering you could provide to cosmic forces, demanding artistic death to maintain universal stability through human creativity. Applied to human destruction, serving divine entertainment that judged human worth through human willingness to become religious art. The gentle rain continues, washing away the memory of systematic sacrifice, while reminding us that human civilization requires constant vigilance against people who claim divine authority for artistic violence, serving cosmic purposes that conveniently benefit those who control religious interpretation of divine requirements for human death. Rest peacefully, knowing that today's cosmic authorities demand different sacrifices for different divine purposes. But human capacity for creating sophisticated justifications for systematic killing continues across cultures and centuries in forms that change, while fundamental patterns remain constant throughout human history. Serving different gods who appreciate different types of human creativity applied to human destruction. The Blood Eagle nightmare ends, but the lessons remain. Beauty and terror can coexist in sophisticated civilizations where systematic violence is disguised as religious duty and cosmic necessity, requiring human cooperation with divine aesthetic, vision that transforms killing into art-serving spiritual entertainment. Sleep now, while remembering that safety from artistic violence isn't permanent condition, but temporary achievement, requiring eternal vigilance against authorities who claim divine justification for human sacrifice, serving cosmic purposes that benefit those who control religious interpretation of divine appetite for human creativity applied to human destruction. The rain falls gently, designed to calm minds that have experienced religious terror, comfort hearts that understand spiritual pressure, and soothe souls that recognize how easily sophisticated civilizations can justify systematic killing through beautiful theology, claiming cosmic necessity for human death serving divine entertainment. Sweet dreams in a world where sacrificial altars sleep quietly and hungry gods have been replaced by different authorities, demanding different forms of human sacrifice for different cosmic purposes, serving different divine appreciation for human creativity applied to human destruction. The Viking nightmare ends, but human capacity for religious violence